And whether he's dealing with foreign relations or our own intel agencies, Donald Trump is living up to what he promised on the campaign trail. He is a disruptor. When he believes it would benefit America, he's unafraid to reorient or even challenge old alliances. And sometimes he'll opt toward building bridges to old adversaries for the greater good. As he has on so many issues, Trump has ditched the playbook of the bipartisan establishment and also the conventional wisdom that goes along with it. And let's face it, this has driven the old guard and their cheerleaders positively bonkers.
I just personally think today is just an incredibly depressing moment in our time, in our history as an American.
When your home is burglarized, you don't invite the burglar over to dinner. You put in a home security system. We should not be inviting President Putin to dinner at the White House.
It's quite a pass we've come to when the leadership of a country like Iran seems more stable and rational than the President of the United States.
The U.S. influence is diminishing. And the overriding thing that connects all of this is diplomatic malpractice by the President of the United States.
Diplomatic malpractice, diplomatic norms. Like, what are those? Are those the norms that allowed China to go virtually unchecked for almost 2 decades? Or the diplomatic norms that thought that Iraq was an essential war? Or is it when we looked into Putin's eyes and saw his soul? The fact is, many of the same people trashing Trump's disruptive approach were the same ones who advocated the most disastrous policies of the post-Cold War era. Of course, as long as they hit the president, they're still going to get cushy gigs at the New York Times or that Amazon paper. And they'll also get pundit perches at other cable outlets. In other words, they get total immunity for being perpetually wrong on critical issues. The good thing is, Americans, both on the left and the right, continue to reject the old norms that led to job losses, flatlining paychecks, offshoring our manufacturing, and disastrous military interventions. President Trump has stood up to China with tough tariffs, while slapping severe sanctions on Putin and also Kim Jong-un. And now he's standing up at a moment of social and economic instability for the regime in Iran. Typically, his all-caps tweet advising the Iranian president to never, ever threaten the United States again. I was coming back from a trip yesterday. I was like, whoa, it's all caps. It was greeted with the same snark and skepticism of so many of his global initiatives. Well, the difference this time, though, is there seems to be coordinated communications at play, a strategy, something the White House, I think, has long needed. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and National Security Advisor John Bolton each sent out messages echoing the president's Iranian stance. Now, this is a radically different approach from the mixed messaging that followed the Helsinki summit. We talked about this last week. But while he shakes the old global order, Trump is also rattling the cages of the intel community, cages that no one has ever dared to rattle. Remember during the campaign when Trump spoke about reforming and ending the corruption at the FBI and the CIA? Even his political nemesis sounded a warning.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
And boy, have they worked to get back at him. And we now know that the unverified Oppo research used to secure those FISA warrants to spy on an American, and the FISA judges, by the way, weren't told that Hillary specifically funded it. Then, of course, we know that rogue FBI investigators use their powers as an insurance policy should Trump actually be elected. Meanwhile, some Obama-era intel officials responsible for so much of the deep state mischief have become the critics in chief. And today, the White House announced the president's intention to strip them of their security clearances, including former CIA chief John Brennan, who last week called the president's Helsinki comments oh so subtly treasonous.
Not only is the president looking to take away Brennan's security clearance, he's also looking into the clearances of Comey, Clapper, Hayden, Rice, and McCabe. The president is exploring the mechanisms to remove security clearance because they've politicized and in some cases monetized their public service and security clearances.
Okay, well, a couple of them don't even have their security clearances any longer. It's good to check that before you go out there and say that. However, this disturbing episode, I think it does require more than security clearance revocations. It's bigger than that. It's about the credibility of the people who are heading up our intelligence agencies and their inherent political biases. The president should be encouraged to continue disrupting on behalf of the American people, at home and abroad. Contrary to the media narrative, a new poll shows that voters are with Trump. A new Wall Street Journal NBC News poll taken before and after the Russian summit reveals that the president's job approval rating is up a point since last month to 45%, a high for his presidency. Imagine if we had a fair media. Among Republicans, Trump has an 88% approval rating. Other than, I guess, George W. Bush after 9/11, that's a higher intra-party rating than every president since World War II. Huh. Now, President Trump is on the right path, but he must proceed cautiously and react deliberatively, always keeping the focus on the American people. They're the ones who elected him. The resistance will seize on missteps in communication or approach or in policy as proof that they were right all along. You got to leave it to the experts, Mr. Trump. But by all means, continue exposing Washington corruption and those who profit handsomely from it. That's the most enjoyable disruption of all. And that's The Angle.